Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Influence, a social media podcast with Abby Jean and Nate. Over the last couple of years, the world has evolved from going shopping in the store to ordering everything online. Social media not only became a place to shop, date, explore, and advertise, it became a place where we are captivated by a salmon rice recipe, and we are all basing our day around whether or not a 13-year-old pug woke up with bones or no bones.
But do you ever wonder how regular people who live regular lives shoot to internet fame overnight? How a trending song turns into thousands or even millions of followers? Do their lives really change? And if so, how? Let's talk about the shift from a 9 a.m. meeting to please like, share, and comment. We're diving into the world of social media with your favorite influencers. This is The Influence, a social media podcast. Welcome, everyone, to episode one. To episode one of the Influence, a social media podcast. My name is Nate Kelly.
And I am Abby Jean. Do I say
Esper.
my full name?
I don't know.
My name is Abby Jean Esberg.
This is our new podcast.
I'm so excited. We came up with this idea just, we were sharing a conversation on another podcast that Nate does, and we both just have this interest in social media and how the idea of these regular people living regular lives can sometimes shoot to internet fame overnight. If they do it intentionally, if it's something they've kind of wanted to do, or if they're just regular old people finding themselves kind of in this spotlight. It's so interesting, and we want to get to know some of these social media personalities and influencers and content creators a little bit more.
Yeah. After our original interview on the other podcast, I was like, you want to start a podcast? You want to start a podcast? And I kind of just had this idea. And, once we started brainstorming about things and, we haven't really seen much else out there that's similar. And we really want to learn what makes these popular influencers tick and, why they decided to put their lives out there, and if and how life has changed since going viral, and how perhaps they are capitalizing on it and or using it for positivity in their life or for a business venture or whatever it may be, just to kill time, I'm sure, in some cases. But we kind of want to dive in and get a look behind the content, behind the upload, if you will. Follow us on social if you haven't yet. Let us know who you want to hear from. We're on Instagram and TikTok at Social Influence Pod, and we'll upload new episodes every Monday.
Lexi was one of the first people I followed on TikTok.
Oh my gosh, you're an OG hot messer?
Yeah, because she was doing her wedding DIY stuff.
Oh.
And I am not engaged, but I find that all to be so interesting.
It's probably crossed your mind, even though you're not engaged.
Yeah,
right.
Totally. Like, if the day ever comes, girl, I'm going to shoot right back to those old Lexi DIY videos.
Yeah.
I'm going to whip together a wedding, because her wedding was stunning.
Wow.
Lexi DIY just so inspires me to get off my lazy hiney and go make something beautiful.
Right. And she is just this little pint-sized powerhouse who does absolutely everything herself. She's freaking hanging closet doors, ripping out carpet. It's just inspirational. I love it.
It's incredible. Tool belt, putting up, when she did her bathroom, I was like, no, what?
Yeah.
Stop it. How is this happening? And there she was with the suction cups on the giant pieces of stone.
Yes.
I was like, wow, I want to be Lexi DIY when I grow up.
It's so impressive.
It's so good.
So good.
And her style is so cool. You see the before picture and you're like, no, that's not the same house.
with that said, I think you and I both agreed that we wanted our first guest to be Lexi DIY,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
She's got a huge loyal following, and I think that like there's just something about content where it's like you're putting in your blood, sweat, and tears that
Yeah.
is just more meaningful, and I think people can relate to a little more.
Yeah. She's redoing her home and letting us all watch.
I'm excited to hear like what's coming next. Yeah, she did announce, I guess, on her channel, right, that she's a military wife. They are moving, right? So I guess she gets to start
Yeah.
over. I'm excited to ask her.
I know. I'm so excited.
Love it.
Fangirling.
Fangirling. Well, I guess with that said, let's upload our conversation, our first conversation on the
Yeah.
influence, a social media podcast with Lexi DIY.
Let's kick it. If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
It's also the easiest way to distribute your podcast to platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google, and many more. The best part about Anchor, it's all free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Say it all with Anchor.
Oh my gosh.
Lexi DIY coming in hot with 1.4 million.
It's so crazy to hear you guys say that because sometimes I don't really realize the full like scale of that number. So it's weird.
Yeah.
1 million is a lot, and I'm sure it took some work behind that.
Yes.
So, let's kind of just start where you want to start and maybe tell us a little bit about, leading up to diving into the social media machine and a little about your first upload, maybe.
Yeah. So I started just kind of on TikTok like everybody else. I had started some with YouTube before that. And while my husband went on deployment, and I was just like, I need something to do. Like I've got to do something. And I always wanted to pursue social media, but I just, I was like, who's going to watch me? Like, what am I even going to do? And, I had made a few YouTube videos, and then I kind of was like, oh, this is so much work. I'm not going to do it. And then I just, everybody loves TikTok, and I was just on there like anybody else. And I mean, my first videos were like, I don't even know what they are at this point. I'd have to like scroll back, but a lot of the first videos were just of my dogs.
Can't go wrong with the pets.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's actually when I first went viral, it was a video of my dog Penelope, who has special needs. And so I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to be a dog account. And then, things definitely quickly took a turn. So.
Well, I'm sure that I'm sure Abby could tell you what your first videos were. So, Abby Jean, why don't you take it away? Yeah.
The first about 15 are of your dogs. And it was just so lovely because I was like, I think I started following you a little bit after the dog content.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, like the one when she's walking in the water.
Yeah.
Oh my
She's
God.
the sweetest thing ever. Oh my gosh. That was like one of my first brand deals.
Really?
Yeah. So it was so funny because I actually forgot about that.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Yes,
The historian.
So with that brand deal, so they approached you. How did that whole thing work?
So I was on, I forgot what it's called, but on like an influencer marketplace sort of website. And it's not one that I use anymore. And I had applied for it and they just accepted me. So then it kind of just all happens like over this platform. And, it was really crazy to navigate, I mean, just any brand deal when you have no idea what you're doing. And yeah, it was wild. So it was cool to like be able to get paid for something that you love doing. And I think that's the point when I realized like, okay, I'm going to make this my career.
That's
Yeah,
so cool.
I think one of the things about going viral or this happening quickly is you sort of have to capitalize on turning it into a business, right? And utilizing it for the monetary side of things. So I guess like what factors into when you're deciding on like a brand deal, or what would be like a deal breaker if someone reached out to you?
So it's changed a lot now. Like now I have like a management team that they vet all of the brand deals, and at the end of the day, like it gets passed to me, you know, this is what they're offering, this is what they're asking for. And normally it doesn't get to me unless they think it's a good fit. So but sometimes I will like decline them. And usually I just decline it if like a brand is asking for like way too much.
Yeah.
And I just know that I can't get it done, especially for like the amount of money. But honestly, my biggest thing is I want to get the product first and make sure that I actually like it. And, you know, obviously working with brands that I already use is the best thing. But I definitely don't want to promote anything. Like it's a fine line, right? Like all these brands reaching out to you and you might not have heard of them, but they may have a good product, and, you know, it goes with your content. So you really have to walk that line of like your authenticity.
Mm.
And it's hard at first when there's money being like, you're like, oh my
Sure.
gosh, I've never thought that I could make money from this, and then a bunch of brands are offering you. But you know, once you do a couple of brand deals, then you're just like, okay, I feel more confident in my skills as a content creator, the value that I provide, and just making sure that the companies are a good fit. So
And especially, I mean, I love how you said like you want to get the product, you want to make sure it's something that you actually enjoy, because
yeah,
there's kind of like this unspoken responsibility that if a ton of your followers go out and get the product and they don't like it, they're not
yeah.
going to that product to tell them that. They're going to you to tell
Right.
you that you told them that it was great and it's not.
Yeah. And I will get that. I mean, still a lot. When I post an ad, people are like, "Oh, don't even watch it. It's an ad." And I'm like, "Well, you know, I can't, like, this is how I make money, and if I want to like be able to afford to keep doing creating content at the rate that I'm creating it, just because especially like what I'm doing is costly. I mean, it's home renovation, so
Yeah.
it's a lot. And sometimes I have to just remind myself like when I was on the other side of it.
Yeah.
But like I totally understand, and that's why it's just really important to me that I'm not like, if I know that that brand is just not it for me, like I've used the product and I don't care how much money they offer me, I will not take the deal.
I'm curious how the home renovation got started. Was there this idea in the back of your head while moving there that's where your channel would sort of go, or did it happen organically as you started doing projects in the house? I guess, what was that evolution like?
So after dog content, that's when I started making like wedding content. Because me and my husband, we had been married, but it was our, you know, we got married in a courthouse. And so I didn't have any money. And I was, you know, I wanted this dream wedding, but I was on like such a limited budget. So I just started making everything myself. And you know, after the wedding, and that's when I really started to like take off. And after the wedding, I just remember like, what am I gonna do? Like I started to kind of freak out,
Yeah.
but I knew that I loved like creating the DIY projects, and I loved creating content. So I was going to keep doing it. And luckily it was, you know, coming up on Christmas time. So I was doing a bunch of Christmas DIYs and they were really successful, but I knew that that wasn't sustainable for long. And actually, we ended up selling our first home. And one day I just looked at my husband, Dustin, and I said, I think it's time that we like buy a fixer-upper like we've always wanted to do and just do it.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. And then literally within that week, we put our house on the market. This is entertaining to like bring people through this and just, you know, also see if anybody else had been through something similar because we were just so lost. So it was a weird evolution, but I always knew that I wanted to do renovations and I wanted to like learn how to do everything myself because I didn't want to wait for somebody to come around and do it for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
That
I
is
will
so
tell
cool.
you in prepping for our chat today, the overarching theme that Abby and I were talking about is just out in being in awe of your badassness.
Oh,
We're
I love
like,
you guys.
We were chatting last night, and I'm like, I am exhausted just watching, and she's just doing this all by herself. Look at her doing this, and I'm like
Oh,
laying in bed eating chips, and
Yeah.
Nate's like, she's unstoppable. I was
Yeah.
like, I know.
oh, you guys are so sweet. Oh my gosh. Well, I appreciate that. You know, like I am a very tiny person. So like I'm like 4'9", 90 pounds. And
Goodness.
I would always like get those people that are like, oh, you can't do that. Like you can't do that. And I think that was another thing that was like, well, I'm just gonna do it by myself then. Like I'm not gonna ask my husband for help. I don't need anybody. So yeah.
And you did it, girl.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You did it.
It took a lot of trial and error to get there, but you know, we're chugging along.
What level of Googling happens
Yeah.
prior to doing a project?
Oh.
Or is it kind of you just get in there and try things out?
So it really depends. I have a really bad habit of just like having a mental image of what something's going to look like or what I want it
Same.
to be.
Like no directions, right? No,
Mm-mm.
yeah.
Yeah. And I might look up one YouTube video on it and I'll get probably like 2 minutes into it. I'm like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah. And then I'll go and I'll fail and then I'll rewatch the YouTube video. And then, so honestly, a lot of times there's many YouTube videos being watched for sure.
Do you have like when you go to Home Depot, are there people there who know you?
They're
like,
not
Lexi back.
You know, not
Right.
really. There's this one lady and she's like always works at the checkout. And, you know, we were going in so often. Like there was one time that we had to go like 4 times in a day because we're doing our bathroom and like everything was a mess. And she's like, yeah, I see you guys in here all the time. Like, is this for, you know, personal or is this like for your business? And I was like, well, weirdly, it's for both. And then I like kind of explained to her what I did. And she was like, oh, that's really cool. So yeah, there's like one lady at Home Depot that knows me, but I am in there quite often.
Something that I always think is like so interesting is if you could just like take us through a mini timeline of like your growth rate
Yeah.
and kind of how we got to 1.4 mil.
Baby.
Yeah. It's been absolutely insane. So my first viral video was in March of 2020. So right when the pandemic started. And I remember it starting to accumulate views. It hit 10,000 views. And I looked at my husband, I was like, this is it.
Here we go.
Yep.
Yes.
And I had 1,200 followers at the time. Overnight, it was like 10,000 followers because, you know, Penelope is so cute and everybody loved her.
Right.
Mhm.
Once I started posting wedding content, that's when I hit like 100,000. And I think that was like summer of 2020. And by the time of my wedding, I think I had somewhere around like 500,000. And that was in September of 2020. It was absolutely insane. And, you know, I had been kind of steadily progressing. Okay, so in April of 2021, I had my like biggest video ever. And in the span of 3 days, I had gained 400,000 followers on TikTok.
In 3 days?
Yeah,
Stop.
it was insane. Like I was crying my eyes out. Like, how is this happening to me?
Yeah.
I felt like,
Let's reverse
wow.
it here a minute.
Was it the floor video?
It was. It was.
Tell us about it.
Stop it.
So I had gotten some peel and stick tiles, and you know, I didn't think that people were going to be so upset about my peel and stick tiles. A lot of people loved it, but let me tell you, I still get comments on that video. I think it has like 11 million, maybe 12 million views. It was just the most insane thing ever. Like I was just putting peel and stick tiles down on my laundry room floor, and everybody had an opinion about it. And it was the craziest like 48 hours to like week of my life for sure.
Wow.
And it's so crazy because you're okay. How 400,000
Mm-hmm.
in a couple of days, right? A lot of people were okay with it, and a lot of people were not happy.
You should have seen my DMs.
Oh, I don't. No, thank you.
Yeah.
What were they unhappy about? The way you were laying them down?
Yeah, they were upset that I didn't take my linoleum floor up. And I didn't do it because our house was built in the 70s, so there might have been asbestos.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to deal with that. So I just put it right over it. And people were so upset. They were upset that I used peel and stick. They were like, this is going to be somebody else's problem.
Oh, Lord.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And at the time, we didn't know that we were going to have to be moving for my husband's job at some point. We thought we'd get to stay here.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh no, it'll be my problem because I plan on living here for a very long time. But
goodness.
Yeah. When you announced that you were moving.
Yes. Oh.
We were all like, wait, what?
Yeah, trust me, it was a shock to me too.
So is your brain going, oh my God, another house, more content? What?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yes. And it's kind of a blessing in disguise because, I was going to finish this house eventually. And I think in the allotted time frame, I probably would be at the end of what I could do to this house. Of course, I would keep finding things, but my original plan was to buy a rental property here and fix that up and take everybody through that, and then have it be like just such a fun place to go.
Yeah.
Because like my business mind is going, and I'm like, of course, this is what we should do. And I just thought, wow, like a place with no limitations where it's designed to have fun, like that's the dream. So that was going to be my next project. But then my husband calls me one day, and he was on duty. So he was staying overnight on his ship. He's in the Navy, and he couldn't come home that night. And he calls me, and I'm like, this is not good. He doesn't call me when he's at work. So I pick up the phone, and he's like, I'm so sorry that I cannot be here, but I could not keep this from you. We're moving to New Jersey. And I was just like, what? Like,
you're like, let me put my paintbrush down. Oh, what?
And I was like, New Jersey? Like, I was shocked. I
didn't think of the rental side of things though. That's genius. This could be like a really, really good business venture. I mean, you could do Airbnbs, you could, and I think that lending your skill and your name to things might get you a pretty penny too, or a little higher rental fee as well. So
thank you. And I definitely do still plan on doing that. We are more than likely going to sell the hot mess house, which it guts me, but I want to be like very invested in whatever rental property we do end up getting. And we're about 5 or 6 hours away from where we're going to be living next. So I just felt like I wouldn't be able to be as involved as I would like to be if we did it with this house. But it does, it's going to be cool once we can get to that. But I don't know how far down the road that will be. Hopefully not too far, but
Yeah.
But still, just such a cool, I mean, in under 2 years, you went from doing wedding stuff to now possibly being a rental property owner where people are so excited to go Airbnb at Lexi DIY's
Yeah.
project house. And I mean, it's really,
wow.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It really is. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. It's been a really crazy whirlwind. Like whenever I posted my first video, I did not think that this is what it would be.
Yeah.
So
Like
I'm just
if
grateful
someone,
to be here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like that concept, if someone had told you what your life would be like
Mm.
today, like there's no
Oh,
way you would feel like me. What?
What?
I would not believe them. Like I do vision boards and stuff, and it's so funny because I had just pulled out one of my old vision boards the other day, and when I saw like the numbers that I was like trying to hit in the time frame that I was trying to hit, and it was like 10,000 followers or something by like the end of 2021, and here we are, and it's just I literally never would have believed
Wow.
this.
Yeah.
Multiply
It's
that
so
by
amazing.
100,000.
Yes.
That's
You
amazing.
nailed it, Chut.
Yes.
Thank
Oh,
you.
wow.
The positivity of it, it opens these doors and
Mhm.
affords you these opportunities. If you look back, I'm sure that there have been some negative aspects of it, perhaps. Does anything come to mind, or is there anything that you would maybe do differently?
There are some like drawbacks, and I think the biggest one is just like knowing when to take a break for your mental health. And when you go from nobody like really knows who you are to having 1.4 million people watching every single thing you do and having an opinion about every single
Mhm.
thing you do,
Yes.
um especially when it's so personal to me, just because like I'm building this home that I'm like so proud of, and then you know just getting comments sometimes that are like, you really suck, like you did this wrong, and it's ruthless.
Yeah.
I think that if I could go back and tell like my self a year ago to just put down my phone and not reply to those people, or try to like, keep that more out of my mind. I think that's been the most difficult aspect of all of it. And just trying to figure out like, you know, how this completely changed my life. So I had to like make the decision to quit my job, which, I loved my job. I was a cheerleading coach and I coached kids
Mhm.
around like 5 to 8 years old. And they were like my babies. I had them all since they were, like 4 and 5.
Oh.
And so I had to walk away from that. And I think that was like the hardest part, but it was, and definitely like the biggest downside, but I needed to do it. And I'm really glad that I did it, even though
Mhm.
it was really hard. So
We were talking about that too, the mental health aspect of it and kind of keeping yourself in check is so hard when you're kind of in the thick of it. But
for sure.
do you find yourself having like a schedule or like a screen time, like how do you deal with that with your mental health?
So I am such a chaotic person. I don't really have a schedule. And for me, like, I think one of the reasons that I got where I am is because I used to read every single comment and I would reply to every single comment.
Mhm.
If it was like really mean, I would usually just delete it or block the person. And I don't do that often, but if they're like being really vicious, then I'm like, I don't need to see this. They're going to or if I notice the same person commenting mean stuff, I'm like, don't watch it. It's okay.
Yeah.
I don't, because if, I have a video going viral, then I'm like, I want to reply to everybody, because I just appreciate that anybody like takes the time
Yeah.
to comment on my videos and stuff. But I've started, when I'm having a rough time or when I'm just extremely busy, I will not reply to as many comments. Like I'll only reply to comments for the first like few hours, and then, you know, here and there, you know, while the video is still going for a few weeks after that. But I had to really take a step back and be like, okay, after a while, people start getting really brutal after it's been on the For You page for a few days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're not showing it to people that really want to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I used to just like fully watch all of that, and I don't necessarily have like a schedule for it, but if I start seeing that the tide is changing, that's when I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna look at this video anymore.
Once it's rolling on those sketchy For You pages, time to go.
Time
Yes.
to go.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it's hard for you too, because everything you do is such a labor of love and like labor intensive, and you're spending blood, sweat, and tears and time that it probably hits a little differently.
Oh, it cuts deep.
Yeah.
It cuts deep. And then, you know, I try to explain to everybody the reasons that I do things affordably, or try to find an easier way that might not be like the most conventional, while I'm still out here learning how to, you know, put up tile by myself, something I never thought I would do. But, you know, if there's easier ways or more obtainable ways for people to do stuff, I want to show them that. But with that comes a lot of people like, you're doing it wrong. And that's, it's like, okay, I'm learning. I told you I'm learning.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been very interesting. Sometimes like my husband will read the comments and he gets so upset when he's like, if somebody says they don't like something, he's like, well, it looks so good. I'm like, honey, it's okay. We live here. They don't live here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's so sweet. You know, he was like, whatever you want to do, like, let's do it. So I mean, just the fact that like, he was like, all right, let's sell our house was like, you know, I couldn't have asked for anything more. But he has dealt with a lot of the come up. Just like, you know, back in the day when I did like a lot of Dollar Tree DIYs, when I was still doing wedding stuff, I mean, we would be like running out at like 9 o'clock at night, going to like 5 different Dollar Trees, like trying to get something specific because I like ran out of it. Or, you know, I like our full kitchen island at the time would be filled with bags from Dollar Tree. And I'm just trying to make all of these projects. And our house was like Dollar Tree exploded in it. And he never once like said anything about it. He was just like, whatever you want to do. And he was like, hypes me up on every single project. He's commenting back to people. He's, you know, sharing all my stuff. And so he's been really, really supportive.
That's
so cute.
Awesome.
He's like your hype guy.
I love that.
Oh, he is. He's the sweetest.
Tell me about sort of your process, I guess, of making videos. What equipment do you use? How do you edit? There's definitely some angles and some weird stuff that you capture, which is cool.
Yeah. So I film everything for TikTok and YouTube. So I am setting up my tripod with my like YouTube camera on it. I use a Sony ZV-1, which I love.
I have a ZV-1 and I am obsessed with it.
Yes, it's the best. It's the best thing ever. I absolutely love it. I really want to get the new one that they just came out with like the adjustable lens. So
I didn't see that one. Amazing.
Yeah, it has interchangeable lenses and I'm like, I need that. But that's what I use for that. And I just use my iPhone and like another stand. Sometimes I have a ring light. It just depends on like the lighting of the room.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I will tie my phone up to stuff and like put it in these weird positions to just try to like get my shot.
Yeah.
But I am a person who is very like, I don't have like a schedule or anything. So if I feel like I need to make a video or film like a lot that day, then I'll get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I won't stop until like 12 o'clock at night. And my husband's like, I think you need to like go to sleep. And I'm like, no, The room's not finished yet. So like I've been trying to do better about that, but I think that's like, it's kind of hard, especially when I'm trying to put out an episode of Hot Mess House like every single day.
Yeah.
And so I don't really ever take time off at all. And I'm kind of just constantly in the cycle of not being able to get far enough ahead to like stay ahead. But it's fun though, because like I get to wake up every day and decide what I'm gonna do, which I feel like, not a lot of people get to do that. So I'm just like grateful that that's my life.
Your most relatable things that for me that I ever saw was you were organizing all of your supplies because you would just keep rebuying the same thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, same girlfriend. You were like, you had like a bunch of something already, but you couldn't find it. So you would go buy more. And I'm like, she is me. I am her. Together, we're going to be okay.
Yes. I have really bad ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
So my object permanence is not there. If I can't see it, I don't think I have it.
Yes.
Doesn't exist.
Doesn't.
Yeah. So that happens to me a lot.
Where do you take your biggest inspiration from for projects? Pinterest? Do you have a certain site you go to? Where do all your ideas come from?
Honestly, it sounds kind of weird, but just my brain, like I'll see
original
a style.
Ideas, folks. Original ideas.
Thank you. But I mean, I'll see other, designers or, what like the expensive stores that I am not going to spend my money at, like what they're putting out, what the trends are and stuff. And I'll kind of just mix that with like what my vision of that is and what my personal kind of style is. So sometimes I'll see something and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I have to do that. But sometimes I will literally be like falling asleep at night and have an idea. And I'm like, I have to execute this. And I will get up out of my bed and go start doing it. Because if I go to sleep, I'll forget it. Or I at least write it down if I'm like really exhausted. But sometimes I'm just like, nope, the idea's here now. We have to go like execute on it.
I just adore you. I just think it's so lovely that you had this, because we have the dogs and then you had the wedding, which was you execute everything so well. And you're just a lovely human, man.
Oh,
such a lovely human.
She is.
You guys are so sweet.
Such a fun time. Are there any TikTokers that you're like dying to collaborate with, or like who's your go-to page to check out in the morning?
Honestly, I love just scrolling the For You page. I just love people. So although I have like accounts that I watch, like I love Kat Stickler. I love that she's like living her best life and like is such like a powerful woman. I think she's incredible and I love like the content that she puts out and just like knowing her story. But I like to know everybody's story. Like I just love people. It's so interesting to me, like to know what people are going through. Of course, there's like other, DIY or like home decor TikTok creators that I love, but I have like such a wide variety of people that I watch. It's really weird. I don't know.
It's like comforting to scroll and just see, because, it's like happy things, sad things, relatable things, food. Oh my gosh, a cat.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it's like comforting in the sense of whatever mood you're in, you can always kind of find something that you need.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Which is why I love TikTok for that.
And I think like even beyond that, you can also pull inspiration from any of those things. I'm sure, Lexi, you don't just get inspiration from home decor or renovation.
Right.
Like you can pull inspiration from somebody's personal story or something they're going through and turn that into a project or whatever you need. You're going to find it.
Yes, there's so many amazing like content creators on TikTok, and sometimes I just like in awe of like their creativity, And I'm just like, that's so genius. And of
Yeah.
course that will like spark something for me too. So I love that about TikTok, because I feel like it's literally a never ending cycle of like people learning and like growing off of, you know, also what other people's experiences are. And I think that's just what makes it so successful. I think that's why people love it so much, because you like, I can learn so much more on scrolling through TikTok for an hour than like, you know, a lot of other places, like if I was scrolling through Instagram or something. And it's so crazy too, because TikTok just knows. It just knows who
I
you
know.
are too.
Yes.
And it knows you better than you know yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, I
It's
didn't know that I
weird.
needed to see that, damn it. But I needed
Yeah.
to see that.
Like sometimes I'm like, dang, I was just read for filth. Like these,
Yes.
they knew me. They knew exactly
Yeah.
like what I was going through, or, you know, whatever. So it's just crazy. I love TikTok.
We were just saying how crazy, like here we are, we're in 3 different states, 3 different human beings, and this wild and crazy app brought us all together to share our stories and our lives, and it's just so incredible. It really is.
It is. You know, I hope that someday soon I can like meet more creators in person, because I think that's been one of the coolest things too, is just like talking to other creators and
Yeah.
seeing what they're going through too, because it's this whole crazy ride that like you have no idea what you're doing, and we're all just like out here trying to do it.
Yeah, I fully expected like an email that was like, "Hi, welcome to being a creator. This is what's going to
Here's
happen
what you
next."
do.
And I was like, I think they forgot to send me that email, because I don't know what step we're on, but I think they want me to link stuff. If someone could send me the textbook for that,
Yeah.
Yep.
and that email never
Didn't
comes. So
happen.
you just got to use your resources.
It never comes. It never comes.
Lexi DIY, thank you so much for your time today.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me. It's been so fun.
Will you come back when you hit 2 million?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would love to.
We'll just hit her up on every million.
Yes, every million.
I love that. I'm aiming to try to hit 2 million soon. So
You
Okay.
got this, baby girl.
the
You
holiday
got
season.
this. Oh, it's upon us.
Totally. You're right. Yes. Well, your
Time
seat
to
is
do
reserved for 2 million,
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
you're a part of the influence.
I'm just so excited we got to sit down and talk to you today. It's been so lovely and so cool. I mean,
So
this is why
cool.
we want to do it. It's so interesting.
Yes.
And I guess we'll leave with, what's one thing that you want to convey to your followers? If you had to pick one message, what would your message be?
I think that my message would definitely be that if I can do it, and I can, if my life can change this much in, you know, under 2 years, then yours can too. And you should post that piece of content. Like, just do it.
I love that.
Oh,
Gotta
thank
start.
you.
You gotta start, right?
Yes.
Lexi, thank you so much for meeting with us today.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me. I had so much fun.
Hey there. Thanks so much for listening today and supporting the show. Make sure you hit that subscribe button now so you never miss an upload. We're back every Monday with new episodes available wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Also, follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Social Influence Pod for the latest updates on the show and to let us know what influencers you'd like to hear from. Head over to iTunes to rate and review The Influence, a social media podcast, and we'll see you next Monday for another peek behind the upload.
Y'all have a blessed day.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye now. This is the motherfucking new podcast.